Well, on that note, it's time to march ahead towards our next panel discussion. And the next exciting session, in fact, is on the topic Unlocking Women Potential in Building Materials Industry. I would love to quickly invite all of our speakers on the screen. But first up, let me begin with our session moderator, our eminent moderator. We have with us Dr. Ananya Gandotra, Head of Design and Sustainability with Birla Estate Private Limited. In fact, she would be spearheading this beautiful panel discussion. She's a leader in real estate with 27 years of experience across various asset class and currently heading design, engineering, and sustainability at Birla Estates. Well, it's also time to introduce our distinguished set of speakers in the alphabetical order. So first up, if I may please invite Lainey Loitta, who is a fire protection manager in North America with the Lubrizol Corporation. And for more than 5 years, she's been in the fire protection industry. And she's passionate about her role in advancing the awareness and benefits of fire sprinkler systems across all the residential, multifamily, and commercial market segments. We're also joined by Mili Majumdar, who's a Managing Director, GBCI India, and Senior Vice President, USGBC. And Mili is responsible for technical adaptation and customization of the portfolio of rating systems of GBCI for the Asia Pacific region. An architect and a building technologies specialist, she's also the member of Committee for Formulation of Energy Conservation Building Codes for India, member of Committee of Bureau of Indian Standards for Revision and Updating of National Building Code of India. We now move on to also inviting on board Pratima Joshi, founding member and executive director, Shelter Associates. She's someone who's recognized the issues around provision of safe access to water, sanitation, social housing, waste management, etc., 2 decades before today's focus. In fact, she's also been identified by BBC as leading slum architect of India and recognized as a social entrepreneur by Ashoka Fellowship. We'd also like to further invite Radha Ramanujan, who's the Chief Financial Officer, Aliaxis SA, Ashirvad Pipes, and as a CFO for over 16 years with an overall experience of 28 years, Radha has a proven record of establishing cross-functional partnerships to turn around the company's results. In fact, her experience spans across multicultural, varied business organizations. We'd also like to invite on board Rakhi Deepak, who's the National Secretary, FSAI, and founder and managing director, SagTaur Universal. Rakhi, in fact, has over 20 years of experience in business management with a core business operations in design, supply, installation, and servicing of the IBMS fire safety and security systems as well. And with that, may I also invite Santha Gour, who is a principal architect and co-founder, Infinitti Design Studio, and director, Planet 3 Studios Architecture Private Limited, a young internationally award-winning practice that represents the vanguard of future-forward design in India by addressing the fundamentals through intense programming. This is led by none other than Santha Gour. So it's wonderful indeed to have such power-packed panelists joining us. And without any delay, may I please hand over the proceedings to our fabulous session moderator, Dr. Ananya Gandotra. With that, over to you then.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us such a nice introduction. So this panel is a power pack panel, as Kavya just mentioned, and I'll be breaking it up into primarily 3 parts. Since we see it's, people like women are from diverse fields here, so we would like to get first part, their views in their own expertise or rather domains. And the second part, we will have more discussions on gender parity and inclusion as a part of the International Women's Day panel here. And finally, I would like to take few questions from which would be pouring in, I'm sure. So starting, I'll be posing my question to Mili. So Mili, I just wanted to understand a little bit about the rating systems. So I understand rating systems help in devising a more carbon neutral strategy for projects. How can the collaboration be improved, both with private partnership as well as government policymakers? Could you throw some light on that, Mili?
Thank you so much. And it's so wonderful to join you all ladies for this wonderful panel. And a very happy Women's Day to all of you. Thanks, Ananya. Of course, I now lead different rating systems in my current position. But I have extensive, kind of practicing and research experience in the building material segment. And what I feel is that government and private sector have equal role to play in moving forward the green building, kind of industry, moving forward the industry holistically. Rating is an enabler. What rating does is it puts things in perspective. It gives a very good framework for measuring, for checking performance, and also tell you where you are with respect to certain benchmark, whether it is international or domestic. But the primary goal of all of us, and currently also we have faced the pandemic, and now more than ever, we feel the need for sustainability, for resilience, and for a healthier planet. So if we do not work, so there is no distinguishing role between government and private sector in this. However, the government can set very strong standards and enabling policies and frameworks, as well as create incentives that can give the necessary impetus. But the private sector also is equally responsible to take it forward. So I'll take a pause here, but in nutshell, I think rating is an enabler to take the collective, experiences of both the sectors forward towards a common agenda.
Thank you, Mili. Thank you. My next question is to Rakhi. Okay, perhaps we can have Rakhi's video on. Yeah, hi, Rakhi.
Hi.
So my question to you is about AI. So AI adoption in IBMS, fire safety and security can play a very important and critical role. Can you suggest us some ways through which this adoption can be more immersive than what it is currently, especially highlighting on the Indian sector, Indian building industry sector?
AI is just not very common, which we are not using in the building management industry now. But what I feel is getting very highly skilled people and experienced operators for handling all our operations are little challenging nowadays. So this artificial intelligence technique can help in experienced machine operating to carry out complex tasks and all that, especially in the building management industry. And as per the studies, this artificial intelligence division deals with the security robots. So the division of the security robot will benefit most from this adoption of artificial intelligence, and which is followed by data analysis and video analytics. So it will be very it will be an advantage to post a robot which is managed by artificial intelligence in a security area, which is little far away from the nearest population center, or it may be necessary to have an enhanced security presence next to a nation's power grid or a water supply or a toxic generating plant or anything like that way. These type of areas, artificial intelligence play a very important invasive role. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Rakhi. So next I'll move on to Lainey. Thank you for joining in. Perhaps it's very, very late hours for you, previous day or whatever, early in the morning. So my question, hi Lainey. So my question is, as a young woman entering into the fire protection industry, can you elaborate from your learnings on how important is fire and life safety in buildings?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. The answer is that it's incredibly important, and it's something that maybe people take for granted or you don't necessarily think of every day on a daily basis. But now, having been in the fire protection industry for so long, it comes to mind every single day. And some of the data is frankly just scary. The place that you are most likely to get injured or die from a fire is actually in your own home. And that's anywhere in the world, not just in the United States, not just in India, it's anywhere in the world. And so it is so important when, if you live alone or if you have a family, to always practice a fire escape plan, and not only just think about it, but actually practice it, so that when in the event that a fire does happen, you're able to evacuate safely and limit the damage of the fire. And then also, it's just important that you're always following building codes and standards and constructing with fire and life safety in mind, just to really limit the amount of damage or harm that a fire can do to the building and to the people inside of it.
Thank you. And I do feel personally the fact that we have a couple of women who are working in a hardcore construction field like fire protection industry, it shows that women have really arrived in this industry. So thank you for sharing your thoughts, Lainey. I'll move on to Pratima. Thank you, Lainey. Move on to Pratima. My question to you is, I understand you're leading an organization with a good gender ratio. How can we make work environment and organization as a whole more gender neutral? So this is a very gender neutral question to you, Pratima.
Thank you so much, Ananya. I'm glad you asked me that question because, you know, I've been leading this organization for the last 3 decades or so, and I've always had women dominating, you know, the total number of people who work with us, and especially at mid-managerial level. But having said that, I don't really believe that gender can drive gender equality. I really believe that, you know, it's important that you create an extremely inclusive, nurturing environment where both men and women are, you know, equally involved. So, you know, we have an environment where people are working across the various silos, you know, that they might be responsible for. But it's an environment which is so enabling that we have a very low dropout rate to begin with. We've all gone through, you know, these problems of childbearing and whatnot, you know, things which women always face. I mean, not to say that people don't face, women are not facing these challenges. I know that you cannot, for instance, ignore the fact that there are challenges with gender parity when it comes to basic wages, you know, unequal wages or safety and these kind of things. But I think an inclusive ecosystem goes a long way in ensuring that you give equal opportunities. I think that's very important. Capabilities needs to be really recognized and encouraged. And overall, I feel it's not something that you do only at the workplace. There has to be a very holistic kind of attitude towards this, and attitudinal change needs to happen even at home. So if you have the men, you know, you encourage men in your family as they're growing up to take on responsibilities which are normally seen as a woman's responsibility, then it's not very difficult for the man to come to an office space where, you know, gender neutral kind of environment is being encouraged. I think these kind of things are very important. So within an organization, the way you frame your policies, how you structure it, I think all these things are really very important in, you know, in giving that confidence, because once people have that confidence, then, you know, you move beyond gender and you become good team players. You start leveraging each other's strengths. And even when there's a crisis, because everyone goes through a crisis, it need not be just a woman, it's also a man sometimes who's going through crisis. You all chip in, you know, step in and try and take on, you know, as a team, the extra burden that you might have to take on for a while until the person comes back. So I think this is where I would really say that creating structures and policies within the organization which promote a very inclusive kind of an environment where the well-being of every person is being addressed probably will give you that kind of environment which will, you know, bring the best out of everyone, whether it's a man or a woman.
Absolutely true, Pratima. Very meaning for inclusion. First of all, you didn't have any biases, you know, and of course, but certain things are of course driven by policies and procedures. So laying that also helps. So moving on to Santha, my question to you as a co-architect on the panel is, as an architectural organization, how important is environment sensitivity in project design for you? And how do you ensure that your projects do not have any negative impact on environment. And if you can give some new solution or designs which you have incorporated, if you can mention a few which have enhanced the building on its environmental impact mapping, I think that will be a very helpful thought. So Santha, yeah, I think you're muted.
Yeah, always happens. Always happens. You forget it.
It's okay. It happens to everybody.
Yes. So anyway, thank you so much. Yes, as an architectural practice, we do look into environmental sustainable design. But I would say, looking back 10 years ago as to how environmental or sustainable or responsible design, whichever way you call it, was looked upon, and how it is looked upon now is entirely different. Earlier, we were looking at it as the whole and soul of a certain design parameter. Now it's a given. It's a given in the sense, at least in our practice, we follow certain things, like plumbing fixtures which save water, electrical fixtures that save water, facade glasses that will reduce the heat and thereby reduce the HVAC loads, thereby save you electricity. All this is done and it's happening now without a second thought. It's become second nature. And I would say not only to my organization, to many, many more. What we are actively looking towards is the new technologies that are coming in, that will actually save in more power consumption of a building, the innovations happening in the glass industry, which nice glasses that we can use in the facade of a building, which will reduce the heat load coming in from the southern side. So we're looking at innovations, but looking at sustainable design, I think my organization and for many other organizations, it's done. It's a given. Nobody even thinks twice about it. The specifications are written and it's understood that you have to do it. Regarding your second part of the question, whether I can give any example, there is the international cruise terminal that I am doing in Mumbai currently, and it's a completely west-facing facade. So you can understand towards the evening how much, and it's a full glass facade. So you can understand the kind of sun that will creep into the building from the western facade. So we are actively looking at innovating the kind of glass, the vacuum gaps, the kind of films that we will be putting on the facade to reduce the heat load into the building, thereby saving a whole lot of electrical consumption of the building. But that's work in progress. So as I said, small steps and they're going a long way, but yeah, it's standard practice now.
Yeah, thank you, Santha. So I'll move on to Radha. I know you have a very diverse, various different sector experience. So my question revolves around that. Would be from your experience across sectors, what kind of strategies can construction and building material companies adopt from other sectors, which can help small businesses scale while keeping the financial risks exposure in control? Since you're from finance, so that's a very targeted finance question for you.
Sorry, Ananya. Hi, panelists. Can you just repeat the question? I just
Sure, Radha. I will repeat it for you. My question revolves around your varied experience in various sectors. And my question thereby is, from your experience across sectors, what kind of strategies can construction and building material companies adopt from other sectors, which can help small businesses scale while keeping their financial risk exposure to the minimum?
Okay, one thing I understood in this industry versus my past experience is there's no standardization available in the building industry. I have experience in apparel, retail, and I worked in hospitality. If you see, when you buy a garment, you go for certain standard, 38, 39, 40, 33, 34, like that. Unlimited standards, and everybody adapts to it. Even your package codes, 100 ml, 250 ml, like that. But in the building industry, I find other than limited sanitary and the plumbing sizes, we don't have, select 5 size of windows, 6 size of doors, or a little bit fluctuating. To me, this creates uneven competition between a large builder versus a small builder. If they modularize it, use prefabricated products, then execution will be faster, confidence and quality will be more, and the project completion deadlines can improve. The other one which I find a bit challenging here is a building requires a lot of coordination and so many suppliers to be together, unlike in the other segment. And if the coordination has to happen seamlessly, all of them must adapt to technology. For example, I may have a lot of technology in my company, but if I don't know when the builder wants the piping, when he wants a sanitary fitting, then I also produce and hold a lot of inventory. If there is a system wherein everybody is seamlessly connected, if the technology helps starting from a cement industry to steel guys, to the labor suppliers, designer, architect, electrical maintenance guys, if they adapt to technology, and everyone will know when their product will be required, and it can help speeden the supply as well. And in case of a small builders, again, if they have certain association, I find there are large builders having a lot of modern equipments, but the small builders lack all of them, and they depend on local supplies. While RERA is there to help the customers, if there is any nodal agency who can invest and have these type of high equipments, which can be given out on lease to the small builders end to end, then even the small builders will have a lot more confidence in executing the project. And from the banker side as well, if there are standardization in the quality, material availability, and when there are availability of modern technology on lease, the overall confidence will improve. This is what I find is slightly lacking in the building sector compared to the FMCG and the other segments where I serve.
Perhaps standardization, modularity, mechanization. So these will definitely help the sector. And of course, technology. So great, Radha, for these useful thoughts. So now I'll go to the second part where we would like to have a very engaging discussion on gender-specific questions. So my first question in the round table is Mili. So Mili, my question is, despite gains for women in leadership, women remain significantly outnumbered in entry-level management positions. And how can that be corrected? What's your 2 bits on that, Mili? How we can improve that?
Ananya, I know from my own experience and background, I would say, because I have been one of the first ones who has worked in the green building industry. And, when I started working, I was possibly the only woman. And I have also kind of, why I'm saying this is it's very important, because I have seen it in my professional journey. I used to work I have walked the corridors of many hotels in the hospitality industry to do energy audits. And it was recognized as a man's job that time. And it was very easy for me also to get into the team and, shy away from doing the hard part of it. But then I chose it in a different way, that I had the right kind of education, background, knowledge, not experience that point in time. But then I chose to learn it the hard way, So many a times I find that women, we kind of try to take shelter behind certain things to say, oh, we can't do this, So it's even in whether you are even who are at the top of the management, they haven't gone there because of, some kind of label they have or some kind of push and pull they have. So they also have to rise. So I feel there is no shortcut to hard work. And, fortunately, I have been in this, in 2 or 3 organizations. I haven't changed organizations too often. But in my organizations, there was absolutely no gender bias. It was only knowledge and the capability that was given due importance. And also in my team, I have equal number of men and women. And when I work with them, I really do not find, them accepting my leadership. But again, what you are trying to teach, what you are trying to move forward the industry with, it has to be on an absolute solid footing and foundation. Again, there is no shortcut to hard work. So in short, I just want to say that discrimination, even if it happens, women are absolutely well poised, and it's very important to educate them, to give them the right opportunity to rise to that level. Then there is no stopping them. And that's what I'm saying. I have seen it through my personal experience that you can do it if you want to do it,
Absolutely, Mili. I completely agree. I remember, when early days, we would never shy away from actually going and doing outside of, say, if I'm an architect, outside of my domain, because of you want to learn from varied resources, and with and rolling up your sleeves, as they say. So Rakhi, my next question is going to be revolving around the fact it's not just about getting a woman into your team or getting them on board in your organization. Is about how much you are enabling them to be apt, to be voicing their opinion. So my next question formally would be, how can women have a voice at the table and not just a seat? So what's your advice on that?
I'm dealing mostly with men who are at site most of the time, Deepak, and it is extremely difficult sometime to make them listen what I want to say. So at that time, what I learned is like we should equip ourselves with better knowledge. We have to really, if they know 100%, we should know about the subject 110%. So then they will start respecting you. So initially it was extremely difficult making them listen what we say and get the work done. But slowly I understood it is very easy because like now they know, we know better than them, and we are an authority on that subject. So that made my way much easier. Then there is another one which I felt anyway, people are people, and gender does not form the basis of my hiring also. I hire a lot of girls, which is in the design and estimation team. Equal number I hire it for the site. So, so then it is actually getting very easy to work, because usually ladies does not want to work in the site. They always feel that injury, they fear about injury. They are finding it extremely difficult to work in harsh conditions and all that. But I make a balance in the workspace like that way.
Sure. Thank you, Rakhi. My next question is to Lainey. Lainey, what is your one advice that you would like to give to young women who are entering the building industry? So Pratima, my question revolves around our recent pandemic. So the question is, COVID-19 could push many mothers out of workforce. How can organizations rework their strategies to maintain their pre-COVID ratios of men versus women in organizations?
Okay, so I think the COVID situation actually opened up a possibility which I really didn't think was a possibility earlier: work from home. When COVID struck and all of us were forced to sit at home, and there was the field work completely stopped. And our organization, a social organization, really thrives on also a lot of field work that happens on the ground, and everything came to a standstill. So there was a big question looming ahead of us. Now, how do we keep people occupied? I mean, people who could work from home on certain areas, certain kind of work. If it had to do with data or if it had to do with planning, of course you could do it from home. But what happens to the field staff, which is out there, and for whom, if they couldn't work on the ground, it would mean almost losing out on their jobs. So I just felt that, I'll just speak from personal experience instead of generalizing it. We, found out unique ways of keeping them occupied even during the pandemic. See, a lot of our work is happening in slums. We work with the urban poor. And And when the COVID pandemic hit, especially in Maharashtra, where I'm sitting right now in Pune, we were, I think, one of the worst hit states. And in slum communities, it was just spreading so rapidly. And there was so much fear that it was creating. And we found a way of trying to see how we could work using COVID as a central theme. We started leveraging technology. Most of our people who are field workers, we trained them on telephones and, using Zoom and all kind of social media platform, and trained them to start going, into the slum through this technology, reaching out to people and seeing how best they could, ease this fear of the pandemic. And I found that most of them were very, very busy, even during those days when they were sitting at home and doing something like that. I feel that, these kind of things can hit you and can take you unawares. Every industry will need to think and strategize as to how best they can mitigate a situation like this by making sure that they don't lay off their people as far as possible and continue to, work towards not only giving them keeping that employment in place, but, alternate ways of trying to mitigate even the situation outside. And we did, I think, pretty well. We went back to work full time from June onwards. So we made sure we equipped people with, PPE kits, and we did everything, to try and keep people safe. And we didn't allow the fear of things like a COVID pandemic to overwhelm us. And that is why I think the team very successfully was able to go out on the field. The women, none of them got laid off. I feel really happy that our team stayed together through the pandemic, and somehow we found just enough work to do right through those months. And we've just, grown from strength to strength, especially during this crisis. It has brought in a lot of flexibility now. I think a lot of women in my organization now, when they say, is it okay if I work from home? I have to do these tasks, which I can be doing at home. And I just don't bat my eyelid. I said, yeah, absolutely. Just do it wherever it's convenient, because it doesn't matter where you are. I think that kind of a thing has really, in a way, liberated a lot of us, from thinking that we have to always be in an office or on the ground or, somewhere to be very productive. I don't think that's the case anymore.
Yeah, sure. It's just also the fact that if some companies are offloading and laying off, perhaps the young mothers, unfortunately, are the easiest target. So absolutely. That also organization should be a little mindful that
I just feel that's why you should have gender parity. When I said you have to build in structures. We give paternity leave also. So why make such a big deal of a maternity leave? We also give paternity leave. So. We try to make the situation as neutral as possible. And of course, one thing that we must all bear in mind is that even if you have a gender neutral organization, there are physiological and other differences, between genders, which you have to accommodate. If one of my staff members who is a woman needs to be at a parents meet teacher, session and cannot attend an important meeting scheduled that day, I should be able to accommodate that because she is required there, and that is equally important. And I don't think if you're accommodating and if you have these kind of structures built in, then nobody makes a big deal of it, and it just goes a little more smoothly, I think.
Yeah, so I think, Lainey, your connection is back. So just to recollect on your question, it was your advice to young women like you entering the building industry. What would it be?
Yes, sorry about that. I'm not sure. That's the second time that happened. So my advice would just be to believe in yourself and have confidence. And I think confidence really comes with experience. However, when you're somewhat inexperienced and you can have confidence about your abilities and what you bring to the table despite your inexperience, you're bringing a diverse perspective. You're bringing a new train of thought into an industry that's, generally, at least here, aging. So it's so important to really enter the room or enter the company and believe in yourself. And I think when you're not confident, doesn't matter what age you are, it doesn't matter what gender you are, it comes across and it's very obvious, and it kind of causes people to, I don't want to say necessarily lack respect, but sort of maybe not trust you implicitly, or you know, consider you a valuable team member at first. So I think when you approach everything that you do with confidence and with optimism and thinking about yourself in a very positive way, and even if you don't have the experience, surround yourself with people that do, and learn from them, and kind of be a sponge. That's what my mentor told me when I first started out, is be a sponge and soak in everything that you can and learn from other people's experiences, and surround yourself with people that you can learn and grow from. And I think, you know, regardless of the industry, that's very important.
I completely agree with you, Lainey. I think belief in yourself, in yourself and attitude also is very, very important. All the women are very high on the emotional quotient, but sometimes they can also go overboard. So it's the right balance that you need to strike
100%.
all the time. Yeah. So I'll move now to Santha. Santha, my question to you is, progress towards gender parity remains slow in many organizations. How can we improve the diversity and inclusion from your experience of your company?
I think as a woman who's heading this organization, the first step would be, and for many women who are heading not only organizations, but are in leadership or managerial positions, it really is our duty to our, I wouldn't say community, or to the fellow women, that we give them the space to grow. We give them equal opportunity. We give them a hearing, and we believe in them. Believe in the youngsters or whoever the other women are. So it is our responsibility to stand by the women who are coming in to us, the younger women, or, you know, maybe just a vendor. In my capacity, I have tried to see to it that, you know, the designers who were there in my office, there were a couple of times when 2 ladies were pregnant. So we saw to it, and they were in nuclear families. So it was going to be a very difficult task for them to, you know, continue working and look after the kids. So we saw to it that we created, you know, small little creche. So they got the kids to office. And honestly, I tell you, it was such a vibrant atmosphere to have the kids around, to have the nannies around, you know, even the moms were doing so well. The moms were giving 100%. So if, as women, the first step would be, as women, if we don't stand by the women and give them the opportunity to do well, to contribute without looking at anything as an obstacle, you know. So what if they had kids? But that doesn't mean that their performance will go down. So if we stand by them, believe in themselves, I think that's a major task. That's the first step that we as women can start doing it. And let's hope and let's push our male counterparts to do the same in their own capacities.
Thank you. Thank you, Santha. Very meaningful. And since you're practicing, you know, diversity and inclusion, it's very important to know how successful, you know, this, you know, exercises. And I think people should replicate it, because there's everything to gain and nothing to lose in it. So my next question is to Radha. What does work-life balance mean to you? And how do you prioritize your day or your work or your life in general?
See, to me, the result is important. If you're a woman and you need to continue in your career successfully, you need to produce a result. We can always say, I have a family, I have an in-law, I have a children, but if the organization feels your performance is going down, then probably that is the time you will not progress in your career. I generally, even I did have children, I didn't have family support earlier, they were in the creche and all. And being in finance, we have a very time-bound work pressure. Month closing has to happen every month. You know, it's a listed company, results will have to get published. Our statutory returns will have to be filed on due date. I can't tell government, give me one more day extra for GST filing or income tax filing or whatever it is. But the way I felt is there is work, there is life, right? We balance both. At home you can do office work. At office you still can do homework. When I'm in office, I used to call my children and then give them some homework. They'll be doing it and then they'll call me. So I did do a little bit of housework at office. Similarly, I go home and then make them sleep. Yeah, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Once they're on bed, I will stay late and then finish my job. 9 to 11 is a peaceful time, no disturbance. So I was able to manage my home. I was able to manage my office. And as long as you are result oriented, nobody cares, Yes, there are certain organization in Reliance, though I was a CFO, I had to come and punch at 9 o'clock because that organization believed in punching system. I can't say I'm 24/7 thinking, I work on Sundays, so why do I have to punch? But if the organization believes punching is important, we go with that organization mindset. Let us go and punch on 9 o'clock. We need to be adaptable. Once we don't adapt to that company, then we can always crib about, I don't have life, I spend a lot of time in office. Reason I say this is we are paid at par with men, right? They also work and we also need to work. Yes, we do take some stress at home, but if you think it is a stress, then it is a stress. To me, I think it's an added advantage. We are multitasking. We are more attractive than men. We have more love and affection from the family members. And we still want to earn probably a little bit extra work we have to do for all the pride we get out of being a homemaker and being a career person. So I always tell my people also, share your concerns. Don't try to keep it yourself and then start performing badly. If concern which cannot be sorted out, build an ecosystem around you. Yes, initially it may be very expensive for you when you have a kid. Maybe you need to shell out your entire month's salary on creating an ecosystem around you. But that will help you once the children stabilize. You would have had a continuity of your work. You need not have a break for 2 years and come back. Develop the other skills. I advise everyone to have the driving skills, either two-wheeler or four-wheeler. That helps a lot of interdependent way of working. You don't need to worry going late or waiting for some public transport. So plan it and balance it. It's a very competitive world. We cannot continue to say, I'm a woman, I need all the privilege, I need the same salary. But I want to leave on time, I won't take extra bit. Most of you in the building industry, all of you talking here also would have done a very tough work, standing in the field and standing in the construction area. It's just manage it. Build up ecosystem around it. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think, yes, support system, ecosystem, I think these are also very, very critical. So perhaps I'll kind of open this to the entire panel and get their insights, or I would rather say, were there any challenges? How did they overcome? Or did you get any mentorship in your career? What is those things, that one thing that made you stand out and really helped you as a woman in the field to be where you are? So any experiences, any thoughts? We can just open this up to the entire panel, and also perhaps some advice to the young women out there. It could be relating to any stress management, or in the ecosystems, or prioritization, or work-life balance. It could be anything. So perhaps we can just go in the rotation. Perhaps Mili, if you could just share some of your experiences across. You did share quite a few about your visits and audits and all that. What about your general well-being? How do you manage that, and how do you give the best to your work as well?
Yeah, so I quite liked what Radha ji just now mentioned, that it's very important that if we want the best, we have to give our best. Both and you are supposed to be, as a woman, you are supposed to be best everywhere, at home, at work, everywhere. And it's not that there are no downs, there are ups and downs, everybody, for a man and a woman. But it's very important that you don't give up at that time. Even from my experience, though I worked in an organization where, say, maybe at the top leadership, there was a lot of encouragement to encourage, but then you don't get that, overnight, or you have to work towards that. And there are many times when it happens, both with man and woman, when you start rising, because of maybe your expertise, experience, good work, then there will be so many, like you say, it's a pyramid, like there will be 5 forces trying to pull you down. So it's very critical to stay in balance, stay calm and just focus on what you are doing. And try to, not give excuses, but then try to move up. As soon as you start give excuses, and if you lose your confidence in yourself, then there is a lot of negativity that builds in. So I think remaining positive, remaining confident about your own ability, it helps a lot. And personally, speaking, because I was in this industry, as I said, when there was absolutely no women, and in terms of mentorship, I really did not get that kind of women mentorship. But now, being in this position, I try to share my experience, and learning from what I went through, I try to ensure that my colleagues do not go through the same kind of challenges, because now the competition is much stronger, challenges are much bigger, stress levels are much higher. So that's very critical. And I also think, one very important point while we are talking about productivity, and workforce having equal balance, everything, it's very also important for us to consider the mental health and wellness of everyone,
Yeah.
And even the environment nowadays, it poses a lot of challenges. So I think at an organizational level, there should be, since we are all leaders in our own organization, we should make this mental health, happiness, an embedded part of our work culture to get more out of people. That's very important change, I think, structural change we have to make. And in our organization, we have done it, through, say, yoga sessions or other ways of doing it. That helps a lot. So I'll take a pause here. And
I agree. Meaning de-stressing yourself and try to not take your stress home. And be able to handle it effectively. I think that one has to learn very early in the careers, because there'll be all kind of stress. From the home front, or it could be anything, perhaps kids' grades are not coming too well, so women take it very close to heart, meaning perhaps I didn't get enough time, especially women, who are in positions of a lot of work, and they need to put in many hours. So I'll just also pose this question to Rakhi. What is your thought, and what are those critical things that could make women really outshine men, I would rather say? Yeah, Rakhi, just it's a free thought on how women should handle stress, how they can actually grow in their organization. Perhaps it's a lot about how women should mentor more women, and mentorship in women is also very, very less. Like very few women mentor women. So if those kind of things, what are your thoughts?
I feel to increase the productivity, the first thing we have to do is prioritizing it. Second thing, to get that work-life balance, you have to really unplug. Sometimes you have to just switch off whatever, no, it is enough now, like I will just look into it tomorrow, like that way. I always do that. So in the morning, then you will get a better idea. You will feel a little rejuvenated. All that will be there. Then another one which I feel is you always be very consistent about what you are doing. So you can finish up that work at that particular time faster also. So like being very consistent. Even when I mentor my people, I'll always advise them. So just do what you are doing in a very consistent way, so that you can finish off the work, complete the task faster, and that too in a little perfection, And I always advise them, you should always set a boundary. When you are setting a boundary, you know how far you can go. So you will not have to stretch too much. So that is very, very important. The last one, I always feel that whenever you are trying to do a job, some people, how much ever you push, they will never perform. So that is because they don't like their job. It is always, I always advise them, you just kindly do what you really love to do. So we just cannot push certain people to a certain extent. So how much ever you mentor them, how much ever you try to push them, they will not perform. So that is one main advice which I give to them while I'm mentoring. And there is one more thing which I just wanted to tell all of you. I never found any clear work-life balance. I always felt that when we work hard, we will achieve that. When we really give little more attention to family, family will run smoother. There is no perfect work-life balance I found in last 20-25 years. So I always felt that if you put little extra here, there is something else is getting, like children's studies will get affected, or the mark is getting less, or they want you more. They feel like you are not giving so much of attention to them. And so there is no perfect work-life balance, according to me. I always found it like, you have to work a little harder both the sides.
Correct. As they say, the more sugar you put, the sweeter it becomes. So more time you can dedicate to a particular activity. Unfortunately, there are as many hours in a day.
Yes.
So therefore, prioritization is very, very critical. And I would say a lot of things, I think, for women has to be automated as well. You know, somebody, taking care of the kids and, well-being of the kids, elderly, and, whole loads of things. And I think, Mili, I think you were mentioning that, to be self-reliant, to be able to drive. And, I think sorry if I've got it wrong, but those kind of things which will make your day little much more easier to actually function. And of course, empathy is also quite important from various different, sides. So I'll move this question now to Lainey. So do you have any thoughts towards this?
For me, right from the beginning, it was very important to prioritize, this, my inner well-being and my inner balance, because unless you work towards your own well-being and your own inner balance, there's no way you're going to achieve anything around you. I was certainly not the kind who wanted to be guilty, working at home, thinking about my children at home and, whether they're being well looked after, or what are they thinking? Do they feel that as a mother, I'm not giving them enough time? So right from the beginning, I've been a spiritual seeker for the last 35 years. So I meditate, I do yoga very regularly. I have always carried my family with me, in the sense they know the work that we are doing within the organization, how important it is for me to do it. And they've also realized that if they have a happy mother at home, that is half their battle won, instead of having someone who's always very tense and who's on the edge and who's, trying to please everyone. That doesn't work. For me, there's no such thing, a clear distinction between work-life balance. I think if you work joyfully, whether you're at the office or whether you're at home, which springs from an inner balance within you, then automatically people around you start getting affected. And they also understand that they have to chip in. I've always said my family has to chip in. We all have to work to make things happen. I cannot be everywhere all the time. That's also not possible. So what is the next best thing that we can do? So in the way I have looked, sort of sorted my life or organized my life, is that I have not socialized too much. I don't give too much time. That's not a priority for me. My work in the office and my work at home, which I like doing. These are the two things that I really like to spend time with, and I do it happily. I don't believe in working hard. I believe in working joyfully, because I think when you work joyfully, then automatically, the stress is just not there. I look forward every morning to coming to the office. I look forward to going home and being with my family. So I mean, that's where I'm coming from. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. So that me time is also very important, time at office, time at home, time with kids. It's that time for yourself also sometimes is a very, very critical regenerator and, refresher, and something to contemplate. I think meditation perhaps, also helps one figure that out.
And I have introduced meditation and yoga within my organization. A lot of my colleagues are doing yoga regularly, and they're also trying to meditate at home because, I'm happy to say that, that some of them have been influenced by me, not to say that I don't lose my cool. I do lose my cool. I do use anger sometimes as a tool when I need to use it. But as long as you're aware that you don't corrode yourself, with that tool, I think it's okay.
Sorry, I think we have Lainey back. Lainey, would you like to contribute?
Yeah, I switched over to my phone, so hopefully we don't continue to have problems. Apologize for what's happening. So, yeah, I completely agree with what everyone has said. I think, like I said before, that believing in yourself and having confidence is very important. But then what I've also found to be very successful for me is finding great mentors. I'm fortunate enough to have several, some that I found in my early career, some that I even found in university. And surprisingly, all of those mentors have been men, actually. And I would really, really like to have one mentor. But as we were saying before, women do seem to have this competitiveness amongst ourselves and don't necessarily encourage each other like we should. And so I think that's really important moving forward, is that we all look to each other to grow each other and not necessarily compete against each other. And because, the way we should look at it is another woman's success is my success, is all of our success. So, I'd really love to find a woman mentor, or be a mentor to another younger woman, or even, doesn't matter in age. I would love to mentor and help young women. I'm very passionate about, mentoring in general, because mentors have had such a great impact on my life and my career, both personally and professionally. And I think it's something that's just so important and can help us overcome all sorts of challenges, such as, diversity and inclusion. So in addition to what everyone else said, I think finding the right mentor and encouraging other women is sort of the way to go to help us succeed.
I completely agree. I think women can be really brilliant mentors. And if you actually see professional mentors, there are very few women who are actually mentoring. So I think women should seriously look at that. And they can be brilliant at that task. They mentor the kids, they are well known for, meaning the upbringing of the kids are largely for the women in the house. So even in organizations in the work front, I think women mentors can play a very critical role. So I'll move to Santha. Santha, what is your way of kind of, engaging with other women and in your experience, in your career personally,
My career, I think I mentor the young architectural students in my OFNA students, some students, interns, and the designers in my office on a daily basis. But not just in work. We go out camping, we used to run marathons, we do meditation sessions. I share my experiences. If someday I have just been really, I would say, bad at handling a certain situation and what I have learned from that. So I share all that with them. I hope that is mentoring. I hope they learn from my experiences. But yes, I have enjoyed interacting with the younger women in my organization also. And trust me, the younger women come with a lot of energy. They are enthusiastic. I have tried to nurture that and also tried to imbibe some of that. They're very confident. I have, from every single person I have learned, I've taken in their confidence. I have tried to see how I would look at a situation like that. Regarding a work-life balance, I agree with some of them. There's nothing like work-life balance. There are some days which are absolutely crazy. So that's okay. I mean, I leave home at 8 o'clock and come home at 10 o'clock. So that doesn't leave me any life for, any time for my son. That's okay. But then there are times, and since I don't have a desk job, I do go on site. So some days I can just quit some site early and reach home at 5 o'clock. So that's my work-life balance. It really depends on how you manage things. Regarding, I guess I think I have answered most of your stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Santha. So finally to Radha, and then perhaps Sapna can inform us if we have to take any further questions. We are, beyond our time, but I'll quickly let Radha do the finishing touches to our panel discussion.
Like, I'm audible, right? I'm not on mute. Okay.
Yeah, you
like
are.
Everyone said, stress is what we believe it as a stress. When I joined every company, the first question they'll say is, "Oh, a lady in finance. Finance is very tough. You have to stay late. You have to do this. You have to do that. How will you manage?" I said, "Yeah, allow me some time. Yeah, let me show how I'll manage." To be frank, in Reliance, they had not even more than 2 years. They had a CFO continuing. I was continuing for 8 years in Reliance Retail. So if we take it as a stress, it is stress. If we take it as a hard work, it is hard work. But sometimes, yes, it do hurt us in the initially, when we are working hard, when we are producing result, they'll say, she's used a charm to get things done. We prepare well, we work hard and get things done. And you say we use a charm to get things done. That used to hurt us. But over a period of time, I think take them as they are. The men are men. They may not like so much of women, succeeding or going. To be frank, what have we done in a family? Dad used to be dominating. Mom used to help. Husband is still dominating. I'm helping. So why, when we come for career, men will have to be like this. Men will have to be like that. Okay, if they're making passing comment, as long as it doesn't hurt you so much, just ignore and then keep going on. If you start attending to that, if you start giving respect to such comments, then probably we will have stress. If you just start ignoring, probably initial 2-3 months, they will also settle. And end of the day, the results, the performance matters. And we are good at it. Let's continue to perform and then keep growing. That's what my one sentence.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'll just check with Sapna, where are we on the time, and Kavya, yeah.
Hi, Dr. Ananya. Firstly, thank you so much for that wonderful conversation and a very riveting panel discussion there. And yes, we do have at least 5 minutes more for the questions, for which I'll bring Sapna on board. So over to you, Sapna.
We have a lot of questions, but I think many we have covered in the discussion as well. But I take this one question. Do you think there are unique barriers to females stopping them from leadership roles? Are there some unique challenges for women for leadership roles? Santha, you are nodding no. What do you have to say?
I really don't think so. If you're capable, you're confident, then I really think the barriers will collapse automatically one by one. I'm not saying that you don't have to work hard for it, but that goes for a man as well as a woman. Yes, with women, there might be certain challenges, but there's nothing that we cannot
okay, so there are no unique challenges for women. That's what Santha says. It's equal to both men and women. You just need those right capabilities, the leadership capabilities to be there. Okay, another question that we have is, why is it important to have more women taking up engineering stream or engineering career? Lainey, would you like to take that?
Sure. So I think it's important just because of diversity of thought. Women think differently than men. And, if a woman wants to be an engineer, she definitely should be. And, bringing in just a diverse perspective can only help us all and help the industry advance and help the engineering field advance. So, I think I'm all for diversity, and bringing in a woman to an engineering field is great.
Okay, I think engineering career has underrepresentation of women, and that's why we need more women engineers there.
Sapna, I would like to make a comment here. Sorry for the interruption, though it's not a question for me. we are talking about sustainability and the building sector. I feel, and we always talk about triple bottom line, which is economic, environment, and social. So I strongly think that it's not only, engineering background that can produce, good engineers who would be capable of steering this field. So there is, and we always talk about integrated development, and, build spaces are for people. So it is, that mindset also has to change, that it's only engineers who can be produced to help this sector to move forward.
Not an engineer.
Yeah.
Honestly, Sapna, I think there are many girls who go into engineering as a subject, to study in engineering colleges, but not everybody pursues it as a profession. So we have to ensure that, why, and somebody should study why that happens, that we have engineers as a qualification, but not so many engineers as professionals. So there is a gap between that, and that definitely needs to be covered.
Can I just say something, please?
Yes.
Yeah, Pratima, please.
I'm just dying to say that, because we do a lot of sanitation, on the ground. And the person who heads my sanitation team and who's excellent at it on the ground is a person who is 12th fail. That is his, that is the qualification. He says Baravi fa in Marathi. But he knows so much more than an engineer, because I think practical knowledge and experience on the ground counts for a lot more than a degree, which you have rightly pointed out. And we do a lot of technology, using GIS. And the person who heads the GIS cell within my organization is a person who's from the community, who has learned it hands-on. And today he trains all the new entrants who come with GIS background, but he's the one who trains them, because on-ground experience is far more important than, sitting in a classroom and getting, that kind of education. So I just had to say that, that both the people who are heading very, very important things in our organization are not people who are really qualified for that.
Okay. Anyone else who wants to add to that?
Yeah, I have one suggestion. I really appreciate the question. Why not so many engineers? Even when you see the IIMs, they have now reserved 5%, additional mark for women candidates getting into IIM. Similarly, if it has to be, transformation in India. If government says 5% reservation in every company has to be women, probably naturally a lot of engineers will get into the career. Because of that, a lot of people will go and study, and over a period of time, maybe, when the ecosystem goes around, minimum 5% of the technical staff is women. After 20, 30 years, the system will automatically take care. Then we don't need reservations.
Okay, that's great. I think that is what this question, I think, meant, that why do we have underrepresentation of women in engineering careers? One last question I will quickly take. What policies can organizations put in place to encourage more women leaders? So it's open to you all. One sentence from everyone. Let's have that.
Thank you.
So, Radha, let's start from you.
Sorry. If you can just, I had a bit of a disturbance. If you can
what policies
repeat the question.
Organizations put in place to encourage more women leaders in their companies? Any one pointer you can
okay, one is, I would say flexi working time for women.
Okay, all right.
If you're restricting me to only one, then that is the one.
Okay, we'll move on. Mili, Radha says flexi timings, and I think we all now are enjoying those timings. So yeah.
I think also, flexible timing is very important. Like, as long as the work is done, one should not track the number of hours the person has put in.
Okay.
And so it's more of smart working than the number.
Okay, so work smart, enjoy your work, and work hard. Lainey, your one tip.
Yeah, flexibility was going to be my #1 answer as well. It's just very important to be able to, as long as you get your work done, doesn't matter how you do it, in my opinion.
And I think it goes
or
for
where
both
you do it.
men and women. I think it goes for both. Santha, what do you have to add to it?
Rather than flexible time, I'll also say that women should, most of our sites, there is a lot of labor movement happening and people expect the women also to stay as late. So it's fine once in a while. I'm not saying, okay, we are not going to stay late 8, 9, 10, whatever. Few days, yes, but not every day. So, some days it's an emergency needed, yes, but not every time. So they should definitely look at it when that they have to travel. Or if you're asking the women to stay late, then please look at our transport, see to it that she reaches home safely.
Okay. So when you are making organizational policies, also make sure that you are being considerate to your women employees.
So that's one of the reasons women say, no, I will not do this. It's getting late. Yes. I will not do this.
That's right. So that they are more encouraged to be more participative in the work. Pratima, your pointer for?
I think it's already been said. Flexible working hours and allowing women to explore, they might have entered your organization with a particular mission to support something, but I have had so many women within the organization, because we give them the exposure and all-rounded exposure, sometimes they just shift to another vertical altogether because they find that very exciting. I think you should just give them a lot more opportunities.
Give them exposure, give them room to grow,
give them opportunities. I think that's also equally important.
Okay, fantastic. Ananya ji, your 2 bits.
Yeah, Sapna, my 2 bits is coming from a larger organization perspective is perhaps the whistleblower policies, the discrimination and sexual harassment policies. They have to be very tight and very effectively implemented. The core team which is looking into it has to be working very, very carefully. And health and and stress management also programs should be taken care of, and women should be encouraged to participate in it actively. So
these are a couple of you touched upon. The sexual part of it. How they feel safe in the organization.
And whistleblowers, because usually what happens, it happens with men in power versus a woman who is not in power. So it has to be very, very carefully laid out and properly implemented. So I think that
balance has to be definitely. Correct. And Rakhi, your last bit, and then we will go on to the special segment.
Because if they come to know, especially in the construction industry, if they tell them about the succession plan, they should not think that, okay, if I put in so much of work, one male employee will get promoted in the project manager position and all that. They should not feel like that way. The succession plan should let them know the succession plan, so that they will be definitely more interested.
Okay.
Then the second one, definitely the way other people said about the security, safety, long work hours, all that definitely play an important part, because usually ladies will think more about their children. They think that like, oh, I should reach home, my child is waiting, rather than a man is thinking, okay, my child is waiting. So usually ladies, that basic instinct of the women is like that, the protective nature. So she wants to get back home early.
So one point we are getting from Rakhi is succession plan, make it gender neutral, let all the employees know, so that we have a well-balanced workforce. Kavya, I think we got some very fantastic views from all our panel members here, and especially, on gender diversity. So let's move on to our special segment now.
Absolutely, absolutely, Sapna, indeed. Thank you. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank Dr. Ananya for beautifully moderating the session. Thank you indeed to all of our fabulous panelists for joining us, for sort of lending their time and their experience as well. And I think we've had some wonderful takeaways. So on that note, thank you once again.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much to all our eminent speakers.